Peter Baker is back with us, along with Ravi Agrawal, the editor-in-chief of Foreign Policy magazine. Peter, who is in this group, who's not, and what do they hope to accomplish? Peter, turn your mic up.
Sorry, can you hear me?
All good. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, apologies. This is an interesting collection of more than 20 countries that are clearly allies of President Trump, not necessarily all allies traditionally of the United States, right? You have countries like Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Indonesia, Qatar, Turkey, UAE, countries like Hungary that have been, ideologically sympathetic to Trump over the years, but not America's traditionally closest friends. The UK, France, Germany, Sweden all said, no, we don't want to be part of this. Canada, Trump rescinded the invitation to Canada because he was mad at something that the Prime Minister Mark Carney said, which suggests then that being on this board is the condition of being on this board is to keep Trump happy. And if you dare to say something that makes him mad, you're going to be off the board. So it's a fascinating alternative, in effect, to the UN. He says it's only to strengthen the UN, but a lot of people look at that as his own way of creating a world body that he himself is in charge of. He himself gets to stay in charge of even after he's president, and he gets to decide his own successor when he does eventually step down.
And I mean, the price of admission is enormous. So, Ravi, the Vatican declined its invitation to the board, saying it left them, quote, perplexed, because it should, above all, be the UN that manages these crisis situations. And then here's what Trump had to say about the leaders who've opted not to join.
I believe it's the most consequential board, certainly in terms of power and in terms of prestige. There's never been anything close, because these are the greatest world leaders. Almost everybody's accepted, and the ones that haven't will be. And some are playing a little cute. It doesn't work. You can't play cute with me.
Really? I mean, what does the existence of the Board of Peace tell us about how this administration views the United Nations?
With great contempt. Not just the United States, but also Israel views the United Nations with great contempt. And look, there's little doubt here that the UN is quite dysfunctional. It is, by all accounts, not working as well as it should. It's polarized, it's broken on this issue as so many others. It's also worth pointing out that Gaza itself is in an awful way right now. There is still sporadic violence even after the ceasefire. And, so one has to be moved at least a little bit to commend any move at all to try and bring peace to that particular region and Gaza. But the critiques are incredibly valid of this Board of Peace. Trump was talking there about power. The power is all his. He's an all-powerful chairman who can do whatever he wants. He can extend countries' memberships. He can remove countries. He can reconstitute the board. He's all powerful on this board, and so with that power comes responsibility for the future of Gaza. And I think the countries that haven't joined, Trump obviously ignored some of the biggest ones. China isn't in it. India isn't in it. That's pretty much a third of the world's population, by the way. But what is interesting to me is the number of Muslim majority countries that are in it. A lot of the Gulf states that Peter was mentioning, Indonesia, the world's most populous Muslim country, Pakistan. And what that tells me is that these are all countries that see and know how flawed this board is, and yet they recognize that this conflict, mired as it is, broken as it is, represented so badly on both sides as it is, still needs some flawed pathway forward. And so the odds are incredibly long, but that's why these countries are there, in addition to, as Peter pointed out, wanting to please Trump.
Ravi, the irony right now, I'm curious the interpretation of this, the concerns around it, that at the very precise moment Trump is pushing for peace, the U.S. is amassing firepower for a potential war with Iran. What can you tell us about the observations of military preparations being made right now, the optics and options that Trump has if Iran refuses to comply with his red lines?
This is a very messy situation. I think Trump is trying to approach diplomacy with Iran with a gun to Tehran's head. And there's an argument for it. Tehran is weaker than it's been in a generation. Its proxies are destroyed. It has no air cover. Basically, attacking it would not be that difficult. And certainly it does add pressure. I'm surprised that the Iranians are coming across as confident as they have been in the last few weeks in these negotiations, because in fact, they have very few cards to play. Here's the problem, however. Were Trump to attack in some form, it is entirely unclear what the objective is. Is it to remove the Ayatollah? If so, who leads Iran after that? Completely unclear. You could have any number of scenarios, from the military being in charge. There is no opposition of any note at this point, to be clear, at least that is organized. So the outcomes of military action are incredibly uncertain. The Iranians know that, by the way, and are using that as leverage. My instinct is that Trump is very reluctant to be mired in a long-term conflict. We all know he's criticized the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. So he's likely to look for something short, a short burst of force to maybe achieve his ends if diplomacy fails. What is telling to me is that it seems no one is very optimistic about diplomacy if you speak to officials in the Trump administration and even Iranian officials.